Okay, always confused no matter how many times I do this.
I noticed in your YouTube things, you always, I think, I don't know how it works, but like when you hit record, you're already recording when you, because
Yes.
it shows, okay.
Yes, I'm going
Because
to.
because it shows you saying, okay, guys, in
Yeah.
5, 4, 3.
Well, we're live now.
Okay. Yeah.
So
There you go. We're
3,
live. Hey guys, what's up?
2, 1. Welcome to Comic Beat Inside our Halloween month terrors and scares. Woo! I'm Heidi McDonald of The Beat. I'm Heidi McDonald, editor-in-chief of The Beat at comicsbeat.com.
I'm Jimmy Aquino with the weekly podcast Comic News Insider, covering comics, TV, film, and pop culture.
And I am John Hosch, regular on Comic Beat Insider and New York actor, which means I'm
Yeah.
not doing a lot right now.
Yeah. Well, the acting world's loss is our gain, John. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. So just
we're paying you just as much as you would in a Broadway show. So
so this is the episode I've been looking forward to perhaps more than any other. We get to talk about one of my favorite TV shows of all time. It's in my top 5. It's one of my most beloved things. It's my happy place. Garth Marenghi's Darkplace, a short-lived Channel 4 Britcom that changed the world, really. You guys hadn't seen it before,
nope.
But now I'm sure you're part of the cult as well.
Yeah, I've watched it. There's only 6. There's sadly only 6 episodes, and I've watched them. I've watched the whole thing like 3 times this week.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I watched it.
So good.
Well, it's been on my radar for years and years. I'm like, okay, I'll get to it. And then when I discovered it, that was all on YouTube. I'm like, oh, I can get to it. So yeah, I watched it a couple times, and I watched the spinoff, the Man to Man with Dean Lerner, which is Richard Ayoade's character doing like a talk show, which is brilliant. And yeah, it's awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And so as usual, I'm so glad you guys liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
So as usual, we'll talk about just our first time, my time. So this show came on in 2004 on Channel 4 on the BBC, and it was
not the BBC, Channel 4 in the UK. 4,
correct. That's right.
They're rivals.
Rival, absolutely. And so it was the work of Matthew Holness and Richard Ayoade, who were together at Cambridge, and they'd done it as an award-winning stage show as part of the Fringe Festival previously.
Yeah, for years. Yeah, they did it.
Developing this character, Garth Marenghi, and they got the 6-issue order. And it is a satire. I'll get that right out there. And satire is what closes Saturday night. So the show got horrible ratings. It was at a terrible time slot, and kind of went into the night. But they picked it up for Adult Swim back in probably 2006 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing the beat, and I remember getting this press release like, oh, Garth Marenghi's Darkplace, and a preview episode. So I was like, I'll check this out. I mean, back then there was so much less to do. I had time to read all my emails and watch everything. Of course, I watched it, and I was swept away. I'd never seen anything I don't think there's I'll just say this. I don't think there's anything more perfect than Garth Marenghi's Darkplace. It is a satire.
A bold statement.
Of doctor shows, crappy 80s doctor shows.
Yeah.
It is a parody of sleazy horror movies. It is a parody of egotistical authors, which is probably one of my favorite aspects of it, which we'll get into. And also just a parody of, social norms. But it works on every level for that. And also a parody of DVD extras. So,
yes. Yeah.
So anyway, I watched it, and it was difficult to see the show. I think I watched it originally on YouTube, but in very bad transfers. It was on Adult Swim. It ran on Sci-Fi briefly. Now it's back to UK only. You can't legally watch it here, sort of, kind of, but you guys managed to find it all right. So
it's on YouTube. I mean, that's legal. It's like, I don't know if it's legally uploaded, but it's on there.
And so, I mean, I have the DVD, which has incredible extras and everything. And I was looking forward to popping this into my PS2, which is my DVD player. Region 2. Gotta unlock that puppy.
Oh man.
Oops.
You just got to get one of those Blu-ray DVD all region players, which actually any of them you can just change the setting, they become all region players.
Yeah, well, one of these days. I didn't have time because so much is going on. I'm having a cabinet delivered at the moment, and I might actually have to jump up, but that's something that might happen at Darkplace. So anyway,
It's
so
true.
that was it.
That would definitely happen.
At first sight, whenever people talk about what's your favorite TV show, Garth Marenghi is right up there, and I couldn't love this anymore.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of well, those guys, but like especially Richard Ayoade. Like IT Crowd, which I only saw probably a few years ago for the first time. But he's on all those panel shows, the UK panel shows I watch. He's brilliant. He's got a couple of shows he hosts that are great called Gadget Man and Travel Man, where he brings on other like UK celebrities, comedians, and he's so funny. He's so good. So just for him alone, his character alone, Dean Lerner is great in both of the series, this and also the Dean Lerner man-to-man talk show. It's just like so good. And it's familiar with Matt Berry, of course. Just I'm ashamedly I've owned the complete Mighty Boosh for years and have never watched it because I bought it years ago with plans to watch. I'm like, oh, this is one of those things I watched during lockdown and still haven't, because they're all kind of involved in they're not the main characters of Boosh, but they're all involved in it together.
Well, they're Cambridge has this Footlights, which is a performing troupe, and it's pretty much like this class was like the one of the all-time great classes. It had AO8, it had Matthew Holness, it had John Oliver, it had Mitchell and Webb also.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, it was just
Peep Show, another great show.
Yeah, I mean, it was all this. So there's this show's all kind of tied in with this era of British comedy also, and they've all gone on to do other things except Matthew Holness, interestingly. But anyway, John, what about you? So what was your you watched it because of this?
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I have no idea what this was. I didn't know where to see it or anything like that. And then I was blown away when I watched it. Because I thrive on like 80s horror type things and 80s TV shows, and I also really thrive on like things that send that up and like do it bad, but you have to do it so well to do it bad. And just like the entire time I was watching this, and like I didn't realize until you just said it just now that this was actually, they aired it on Adult Swim, because I was like, whoever was running Adult Swim watched this and then like did like when they redid their programming to not just have like imported anime and like Squidbillies and stuff. Like they're like, okay, cool. Well, we need a ton more shows like this, because I was like, well, this is what live action Adult Swim is. And I was utterly blown away. Like the details that they have to go into in this show to make it such a terrible show is incredible.
Yeah, it's so well put together.
I think that's why I love it so much. And they even used period cameras. They used 80s cameras to film it, so it has that same visual look. And I mean, the audio is painstakingly messed up. So I mean, Matt Berry's character, Dr. Rick Sanchez, every time he talks, he's dubbed, and it's off.
So great.
And like
he's such a great voice as it is. It's such a booming, like he's got like he's such a trained like Shakespearean voice in a sense that anyway in almost every role he plays, be it from IT Crowd or other things he's done. It's like
Toast of London. Toast of London.
No, another one that I know he's done, and it's on the. I know it's either on Netflix or one of those. That's another one that's on the list. It's
you have so many joys to come to you in your life. I'm so happy for you, and
the Blackpink documentary is coming in next week. So yeah, got lots of joys.
You're totally stocked for the next wave of
absolutely
quarantine.
Well, they've just started drilling my cabinet in the background. I don't know if you can hear it.
Well, I mean, it's a very dark place thing happening, so it's okay.
It's a very big dark place here right now. So anyway, the conceit of the show, it's just such a brilliant concept. That Garth Marenghi is a very famous horror author who's written tons of books. The show opens with him in with his aviator glasses and his black leather jacket. And man, I just want to talk about authors after we get there because that's what
he's not just an author. He's a dream weaver,
and
visionary plus actor.
So he reveals that now he's a famous schlocky author, a best-selling author. But in the 80s, he made this groundbreaking TV show that was never able to be aired because it was just too radical, rebellious for the times. And so now they are finally showing it. And then they also have interviews with the people involved with it. So the cast is Matthew Holness as Garth Marenghi, as Dr. Rick Daglish. Okay.
Yeah, there's so many levels. It's so awesome.
And then the interviews are done in character with Garth Marenghi talking about playing Rick Daglish. And so then you have Richard
Dag.
How do you say his name?
Ayoade.
Okay, Richard Ayoade, one of my favorites. So Richard Ayoade plays Dean Lerner, who is Garth's publisher, but plays Dean Lerner in the show. So so Dean Lerner, who plays what's the name of the
Thornton Reed,
the administrator of the hospital, who's always clashing with the doctors. And then you have Matt Berry playing the actor's name, and then
Todd Rivers, Dr. Lucian Sanchez
as Julian Sanchez, and he is
Lucian
Sanchez, and he is the consummate smarmy sidekick character with the earring and hitting on women and he knows judo. It's just such a perfect role. And then finally Alice Lowe as Madeline, and I know, and then she's died tragically, so she does not appear.
Dr. Liz Asher,
and she says, you must be a doctor, and says, and you're a woman. I hope that's not a problem. Victim of period sexism that is over the top. I mean, it's satirized, but it's she's so funny.
She's so great. Funny. Her facial expressions alone are brilliant. And of course, her character has the occasional psychic power, the occasional telekinetic power, which is a whole episode actually. And just her.
But it's when she's PMSing, of course. So
yes, it's so great. Yeah. Oh my god. And there's so much sexism, like when they make these sexist remarks and her eyes light up, she's so annoyed and upset. It's so great.
Her makeup runs every time she becomes emotional, and then she starts crying, and there's massive amounts of mascara running down her face.
And I love that Dag always has a magnum on him, a gun, and then Thornton always has a shotgun that he shoots weirdly,
I know he's always he always has a cigar and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's great. In one of the episodes, in one of the interviews, Garth Marenghi says I don't believe in subtext, but there's so much subtext and because there's they have to inflate, he's writing, because he also wrote the show, so he's writing these inflated versions of himself. And he's processing his feelings on racism and things like that. And it's just everything is so layered and so amazing, and it goes so well together. I was so blown away.
And this was 2004, was it? I believe. Yeah,
when it came out.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Again, like you said, they had sort of honed this at the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, and also obviously I think they started it at probably maybe even Cambridge. So they'd done a few stage shows over the years and really honed these characters and really got these down. But to transfer that to TV, isn't always easy. It doesn't always play well, but boy, did they figure it out. And it's so great.
The show is written by Holness and Ayoade, and Ayoade directed the episodes. And I mean, the direction is so beautifully horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's this one scene in the first episode where Garth is going to the graveyard, and normally you see a short little shot of somebody moving somewhere, and it's this 30-second shot of him walking slowly into the graveyard.
And speaking of the graveyard, there's great, just so great little details where in the foreground there'll be a huge headstone, and it's shaking in the wind because it's a terrible prop.
Yes.
Or even you know, when they're
right.
walking, you know, it's like even the extras in the background are bad.
Thank you.
You know,
Yeah.
and like and it's not them, you know, like they have to like tell them to be as bad as they're
Yeah,
being. You know, like
for sure.
they'll stop doing their action that they're supposed to be doing like mid shot, and all of a sudden they're just like standing there.
Well, that's what's great. Like you as an actor, me as an actor, know that it's not easy to play a bad actor. Like we've both worked with bad actors who are naturally terrible actors. You're just like, oh my God. But when they tell you to play bad, that takes some skill.
Yeah,
Because you have to look like you're not trying to play bad. That
Yeah.
you just are bad. And they do it so well, all the background. And a lot of the background people in different areas would be good. So a couple of the both the Bush guys are in there at some point. They play different characters. There's other little UK comedy. Stephen Merchant makes an appearance. You're like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, Grim Linehan, now
yeah.
credited as a horrible transphobe, but creator of the Ike crowd. He's in there a couple times.
Oh right, yeah.
And it's really like spot the buddy in the background of this.
Yeah.
And, so that's also part of the joy.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, just like every like Ayadi's phone bits are brilliant. Like all the like picking the phone at the wrong time, answering it or realizing that he forgot a line and picking it up and repeat and saying a line, and just the constant little one-liners he has that are great. Like the "I beg your pudding," the whole thing is like "I beg your pudding." He constantly says.
Or like Garth will be like walking away in anger, and then he'll stop, and then he won't be he'll forget to like stop him with his words. So he just stops and waits for him to say his line.
Yeah,
so great.
And like him try, because that's the thing they do in the interview section where they're like, he's Dean Learning because I'm not an actor, and he goes, but he didn't want an actor. He wanted someone who would give the truth. So he plays a bad actor so bad, like one level, like even when he's angry, he's like, I am angry and this is how I am talking. And like I love the great line where he's just like, or you'll get a knuckle supper. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so great. I love, but just like he's so robot-y in how he delivers the lines, and it's perfect. Oh my God, I love Richard Ayoade.
And I don't know if it was intentional, but his character, he as the publisher, does get a scotch better as an actor as the show goes on. Like in the later episodes, it's like you're a little bit better than you were in that first episode.
Oh, maybe. I mean, I'm sure it probably is on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's great about that character also is that like the Dean Lerner character is such a schmarmy. Like you learn a lot more about him in the Man to Man show, which if you haven't seen, John, I definitely highly rate.
I gotta check that out.
And he like owns all these strip clubs and like nudie magazines, and he's a millionaire, and he's super sexist and very like misogynistic, and just doesn't care about poor people and all this stuff. He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The cabinet's delivered.
Excellent.
The foreman wanted to just shove it into the wall with a giant gap. But the guy who actually made the cabinet came back and puttied it up and made it so it fit.
Nice.
What a nice guy. I should have given him $20, but he raced off. Anyway, I thanked him from the bottom of my heart. So
there you go. Sometimes that's all it takes.
You can give them a shout out next episode if you.
There you go. Yeah. Let's bring him on for a next episode.
But no. Okay. So, but the character of Garth Marenghi, the egotistical author, and Jimmy, you and I have both done lots of interviews.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I think that's
people believe their own hype. Yeah.
Yeah, people believe their own hype and just
or create their own hype. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of have an idea who it might be based on. But I mean, I think it's just universal. But I mean, I have truly met Garth Marenghi, and people almost as unself-aware as he is. The bloviating author who just believes his own hype. And I mean, the quotes.
Who's it supposed to be that you think it's supposed to be?
I'm not going to say.
Say it.
Careful.
Say it.
Fill in your own. Just fill in your own. I mean, I actually don't think they have any knowledge of this person. They just nailed it.
I bet they had somebody in mind.
As a horror writer, I don't ask for much. I just hope I've changed the way you think about life. I've always loved the great tragedies, King Lear, The Poseidon Adventure, Superman 2. I mean,
So great.
oh,
And you get a little more like in the Dean Lerner episode. He's in the very first episode as Garth again, which is great. And there's a lot of great quotes there
oh
too.
yeah. I'll just read one more. I could just sit here reading it all and just be happy by myself, sitting here reading Garth. I realize that man needs to keep in touch with his primal urges, whether through sport or through violent movies. But a man must not let his beast be his master. Otherwise, you'd be no better than Bill Wyman.
It's great. And then in the episode of the Man to Man show, he goes, yes, I've collected my entire, because he's a prolific writer, as terrible as he is. He's written hundreds of books. So he's promoting this new giant long volume collection of all of his books that span the length of a bookshelf, and it's one book. So it comes with a bookshelf. You can set it on top of the ledge. So you just go page by page because it's that long and wide, the book. It's so great. Oh my God. And they show like the book and somebody trying to read it and everything. Oh, it's so good. Oh,
yeah. I just, yeah. The third episode though, that, John, your background is from Skipper the Eye Child. Where Garth, tenderly, we learn about his tragic backstory with a child who died because he was half grasshopper, and he adopts this eye child who we see like this eye alien is like stooping a guy with
with a blurred out huge phallus.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Anyway, but the scene, like when I was watching this. Like I could just go to like, it's not a done nor dusted dag. It's like, what about the gents? I saw a poop on the pipe.
God.
Then they go into
so good.
When I watched that scene, I had to rewind it like 5 times and just rewatch as a poop on the pipe. I know I was in the men's gents and there was a piece of shit on the toilet.
So good.
And then at the end, that poop on the pipe was based on a real incident.
Right, yeah. The woman that plays his wife in the flashbacks is, I wonder if they met there. Fun fact is Richard Ayoade's real wife.
Oh, yes,
Lydia Fox, who has the unfortunate actor brother, but Lawrence Fox, the racist dude. He's like super, he was in Victoria and he's like super racist and like super right wing and super he's made quite a name for himself over the past year or two, just openly being really terrible. He
must love his brother-in-law.
That's what I'm saying. Like, your brother-in-law is half Nigerian, so all right, great, yeah, whatever. But anyway, I'm sure she's amazing. Because he certainly is. Lydia, Richard is.
Yeah. So this show had the 6 episodes. Now there was a website. Unfortunately, it's offline. For the, like you said, for the DVD, they stayed in character. They did all these commentaries. They did deleted scenes and everything. And then there was the spinoff Man to Man with Dean Lerner, which was another 6 episodes. And interestingly, so Matthew Holness, he's also in the IT crowd. Like you'll see the crossover between this, the Mighty Boosh, and the IT crowd are just huge. Alice Lowe actually shows up in one episode of the IT crowd, I believe. And so there were, even then, even though it was a ratings failure, it had a fan base, and there were calls to do more. And then, they wrote a script for a movie, which,
oh my gosh,
it kept getting pushed back. Yeah,
they should just do it now.
But it kind of got this cult fan base. But in some ways, I'm glad it was only 6 episodes.
Well, like you said, they did such a great thing with the DVD, like on the Exorcist. Again, they're on YouTube as well. The Horrificata Illuminata, which is this extra, which is just interviewed with Garth and Dean and Todd, and there's just all this, like, you find out more about them personally as their characters. Like, of course, Garth loves working with women if they work the way he wants them to. Of course, Dean only hires them to be surrounded by them. Todd talks about like sex pests, and then sort of accidentally admits he is one. And then Dean says, girls who lie about their age should go to prison. Like they were talking about like how like a story Garth, like someone climaxed to his book and like the Garth and Dean are together, And Garth is like, yes, I've heard someone climaxed up my book. And then you could tell some of this improv. So Richard Ayoade goes, yes, it was me. It's so great.
I mean, yeah, they also have this great, sycophantic relationship between the author and his publisher, which again rang very true to life.
We will name names in the after show.
But
just, yeah.
I think, I think, if done well, because like I would reference like with What We Do in the Shadows.
Just still haven't seen
on FX, like you got to see that too now.
I know.
But so I loved that movie, and then and I didn't want them to make a TV show, and then they made it, and the first season was great, and the second season was great. So I think I would love to see more of this, as long as it's done right, and it's like done with the right people, and
I'm always open to an attempt, and as long as it's done. Sometimes it's not, but hey, they made the attempt. Yeah, that's the thing with What We Do in the Shadow was when the TV show. Okay, I gotta watch the movie. Then I looked into it. There's like several things before. There's an original film, and then there's like the other film, and then there's something else. Then the TV series. I'm like, oh, there's a lot I gotta watch. I always feel like I have to go in order. I know you don't have to, but
no. But I think if anything, I would actually watch the movie first, and then
there's even something before that movie. There's another movie before that movie, and there's even a series before that as well, and set in like shot I think in Australia. So I'm like,
yeah, but that all stuff that stuff happened in New Zealand, so it doesn't matter.
That's true. It's true, New Zealand. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Tell that to Taika Waititi.
Yeah. It's definitely kind of like this line. I mean, I say Matt Berry is kind of the through line of a lot of this, because he just works constantly. So Matthew Holness made the show and was a bit part player in some of the sitcoms of the aughts, but he has not a lot of stuff at all. He kind of dropped below the radar quite a bit, and he recently actually wrote and directed a film called Possum, but it was not a comedy. It was a actual movie about a child who was kidnapped. It's quite a serious subject, and so he kind of I say went below the radar, and it's actually noted in the British press, kind of whatever happened to Holcomb, but of course Richard Ayoade as
continues to thrive. Yeah.
He's just so funny.
He's
directing. Obviously, he's directed quite a few films and videos and all that. And Alice Lowe, not as well known, but she's quite accomplished. She also wrote plays and did her own stuff. Didn't really have like a sitcom kind of career that we would recognize, but and a lot, the Mighty Boosh people were also pretty closely aligned. Now, Jimmy, you have seen ACBC, AD.
Yes, the Jesus Christ Superstar spoof,
which is a lot of the people from this too. Right?
It's brilliant. Well, it's a lot again, you'll recognize a lot of British comedians throughout the whole thing, but it's brilliant. It's like only 30 minutes long as well. It's really short, easy to watch, but it's this spoof they did a few years later. I forgot how long ago it was, but it's like a Jesus Christ Superstar spoof. It's musical, and it's genius. It's so good.
Well, there's a lot of musical talent. I think.
Yeah, Holness is like an accomplished guitarist.
Yeah, because I do think the highlight of the entire show has to be the video.
Oh my gosh.
The video.
Yeah. Where Ayoade raps.
He raps, and
it has a very One Night in Bangkok feel.
Yeah.
From Chess.
He plays the guitar in that, and it's sung by Matt Berry, and it's just like, why won't she love me? Like this, and it's this horrible 80s video. I mean, they just nailed the 80s. Everything about the 80s is distilled into this TV show, like the schlockiness of it. It's just perfect.
ADBC, was actually aired on BBC Three in 2004 also. Wow, they were very busy back then.
Yeah, there was their salad days.
Yeah. Rock on. I did like in some in the Horrificata Illuminata some of the things. stuck with me. Garth, there's like a Garth on Garth section. And I love where he talks about eating, like, like, oh, you're a big meat eater. He goes, yes, I have a meat tooth. And I'm like, oh my God, I totally like identify. I don't have a sweet tooth, I have a meat tooth. And he goes, and then he's like, what about your kids? And because there is a sort of somebody sort of interviewing him that isn't seen. He's like, well, kids don't like it, but until they can buy their own food, too bad. It's so great. He's so
Jon, are you a Britcom fan, or are you a dabbler, or a?
I'm a dabbler. Like I know like Gavin and Stacey.
Yeah.
And I know a few, and I was like,
what's a curtain?
I was a huge coupling fan.
Oh, see, I another one I bought back in my early days of discovering Britcom. I went to Amazon UK and bought like hundreds of dollars worth of like all these DVDs that had an all region player, and just played them all. But it's another one that I had stacked up that I still haven't watched, and I think I eventually gave it away.
Oh,
I know I still have the boot.
I would have gladly taken it.
Oh, so well, you know what? Let me look. I might not. I'll check. I had a big box of them, and I think I finally gave them away. But yeah.
And like I remember growing up on PBS, they used the show Red Dwarf, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's sci-fi, and and they have British accents.
Well, PBS was our first BBC, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like really into Red Dwarf, not really understanding anything that was going on in it.
Oh, nice.
At the time,
I know of it, yeah.
And then again, I became a huge Doctor Who fan, when it came back, but not originally.
Same, yeah.
But I love the dry sensibility, and just like I feel like the idea that the Brits kind of like they tell a story and then they stop it, and then and I I think like Jimmy and I were saying before, it's like we get like I think with America we get wrapped up in like more, just keep doing it. But there is something very poetic and beautiful that they're like, well, we wanted to tell 6 stories and we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely dabble. And this is like I'm kind of like a huge acolyte of this now. I'm like I need to know everything.
I'll give you a list of other things, or maybe just send you my DVDs to borrow of other comedy ones.
Well, I have a couple of recommendations, because I will say that I've never watched Coupling or Gavin and Stacey. I know that those I guess
Gavin and Stacey is the best.
Well, I go from the Monty Python,
right.
Like there's people who love Doctor Who, and there's people who love Monty Python.
I watched Monty Python when I was a kid. I loved it. Yeah.
I watched it when I was a kid, and it was a positive experience, right?
And Benny Hill when I shouldn't have been watching it.
Yeah, well, that's true. But so I go for the things that are like this, and I was thinking it's almost like when you see a Monty Python sketch that just lives on your heart, like the Twit of the Year competition, or any of them that you just love, and it's only 5 minutes long. Garth Marenghi's Darkplace is almost as if they've taken that sketch and they made this perfect 6-episode TV show out of it, without it being diluted at all. You get the same enjoyment in every minute of it. But there's another show. Have you ever seen Look Around You?
No.
Oh.
Now that's another one that I like. I remember Adult Swim or somebody showing it. I recorded it and then ended up never watching it.
You gotta watch Look Around.
Messed up. Yeah, I've heard.
It's very short. There's only like 12 episodes, and they're only 12 minutes long. So
it sounds like you guys are putting together another episode of Comic Beat Insider. Maybe you guys should both do your top 5 or top 10 best UK shows and
In-Betweeners. Brilliant.
Yeah, but Look Around You is Peter Serafinowicz, so that's he's the main man behind that. But it's based on, like, it's a parody of English kids science shows. Like if you were in school and you had to watch these little films about science, and if you liked Garth Marenghi, you will like Look Around You, because
cool.
It'll be like, we did this experiment to see if we could turn gold into a grasshopper, and like they do this whole thing.
Oh my gosh! It sounds amazing.
Droll. It's completely droll.
There's if you like I said, In-Betweeners it's great about these 4 kids in high school. That I love, and it's some of it's gross out humor, but it's really funny. And then if you like sort of traditional sitcom, Miranda, which is the brilliant Miranda Hart, who was, she's the tall comedian, British comedian. She was also in call the midwife a couple seasons.
Right. Wasn't she in
She's so
Spy with
Yes, yeah, that's her. That's her. Yeah, she's
You know what the funny thing
brilliant.
was?
She is. I love her.
I thought about Spy when I was watching this because I felt like Jason Statham's character in Spy, if you guys remember, he was like the alpha spy.
Mhm.
It was very much like a Garth Marenghi.
Oh, nice.
Who just kind of I'm so alpha and everything, and it was
Yeah.
It was really well done.
Yeah, Miranda, I think, is on Amazon. Actually, you can watch it. It's genius because she breaks the fourth wall, looks at the camera all the time, even before Fleabag. And but yeah, which is brilliant, of course. But yeah, I have lists and I have DVDs you can borrow. We can both send you a list of our favorite.
Yeah, it's funny though that
shows.
you and I are like. So have you seen that? You've seen the Mitchell and Webb look?
Yeah, I watched Peep Show, which is their original.
Okay, but
show. And Mitchell, well, yeah, I've seen Mitchell Webb. Like it's Mitchell. Okay, Peep Show is like an actual show that they did, but Mitchell and Webb is more like their sketch show.
Yeah, it's like a sketch comedy show.
And I liked it. I didn't like it as much as I like Peep Show, but yeah, Peep Show.
Oh, Peep Show though is so brutal. Oh,
it's so good though.
And they actually had to ban
Olivia Colman.
Oh, Olivia, well, of course. Yeah. Sophie. Oh, Sophie. Yeah. John, you have you ever seen Peep Show?
I've never seen Peep Show.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You take this downtime.
Yeah.
So I love the Mitchell and Webb look. If you listened to all this and know my love of Monty Python, you'll know that I love the Mitchell and Webb look because it's a sketch comedy show that is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And there was Little Britain at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
The other end of it.
Yeah, Little Britain. Yeah.
But
which hasn't aged well.
Yeah, it has not aged well at all. Yeah. Whereas Mitchell and Webb is more, they're from Cambridge. There was always these different, Cambridge sense of humor, which is, kind of a tradition. And it's a little more, I would say, droll, satirical, little I would say intellectualized. But, if you know your classic literature and art, you're going to get some of the jokes a lot. But totally love that. And, you mentioned the Mighty Boosh. I think that's an acquired taste as well. And again,
I've heard
has not aged well, and they've had to ban some of the characters because of some racial insensitivities.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but it's just kind of this crazy fantasy world it's more absurd than anything.
It's very cult, yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very Adult Swim.
Yeah.
In a I'm really stoned now sense.
But I know what you'd really like, John, as an actor. David Mitchell does this brilliant Shakespeare show. They've shown it on PBS called Upstart Crow, where he plays William Shakespeare.
Oh,
it's brilliant! It's genius. So it's him living with his wife Anne Hathaway and the kids and the actors, and then Upstart Crow. What that's from? It's a quote from the famous I think it's Mark Green. He's a character in there too, who did not like Shakespeare. And there's a famous quote from one of his reviews. Calling him this upstart crow. Who does he think he is? Calling Shakespeare that. So that's what the name of the series. And it just follows, his life and his career as he's writing different shows, and they constantly reference modern things, and like maybe one day this will happen, like that. And Gemma Whelan is in it, who was in Game of Thrones, who played the sister, the badass sister. Which one? From the Iron Islands, okay. Yeah.
And Greyjoy is one of the.
She's a Greyjoy. She's brilliant. She's in it, and David Mitchell, of course, and it's really, really funny. And they do show it on PBS, but you can probably get it on DVD as well. But it's genius, and it's really well done. And he's done Shakespeare stuff before. David Mitchell, he's very smart. He does a great panel show with Rob Brydon from Gavin and Stacey. And Lee, I forgot the comedian's name. Lee Mack, I think it is Lee Mack. Yeah, and it's just a panel show. Bryden hosts it, and Mitchell and Mack are on opposite sides where they host it. And they have a team of each week different British comedians or actors or whatever. And it's called Would I Lie to You? And it's like they make up stories or they tell a real story. You have to guess if it's a lie or truth.
I feel like that is
so
coming to
funny.
The States. I think they're trying to do that on
ABC. There's tons of episodes on YouTube. Watch one, you would die because Mitchell will go into these rants that are so where he's at. It seems like he's so angry, but he's obviously just playing it up. But he's so funny. I love this dude.
Oh, they're just so inherently funny.
Yeah.
I mean, so you haven't seen Toast of London either, which is, Matt Berry as
Yeah.
another blowhard. He's like a
Yeah.
blowhard voice over actor
I think that one is on Netflix. So
Yeah, that one is. I have it on my
gotta check
list.
that one
Yeah.
out.
on Netflix.
Yeah, I keep meaning
And
to,
with that voice of his, there's this one scene where they're asking to say, oh, you didn't say, his one line is at the end of this commercial to say yes. And they're like, oh, that was good, but try it again. Yes. All right. Yes. Yes. And then I can't even do it. He just says yes like 10 times.
Yes.
Only Matt Berry can say yes. And
Yeah.
he's so inherently funny. I already told my Matt Berry story on the podcast. I think in one of our first episodes, I told that my San Diego story. So yeah, they were just talking about this kind of era of British comedy, and a lot of it was on Channel 4, which, as you say, is not the BBC. But
Right.
at San Diego, one year they had the Mighty Boosh come, and like they had Noel Fielding and Julian Barrett. And they did this whole big mighty. They had a dance party, which I was invited to and didn't go to. Big regret. But and then the next year they had Look Around You, which again is this super cult show. And I was friends with the BBC publicist, so I got the lab coat for it, which I still have.
Nice.
Wow.
Not so much. And they had Peter Serafinowicz, who, he's pretty well known now. And I mean, this was pre Guardians of the Galaxy, but I mean, he's had a pretty big nerd profile ever since he said
The Tick.
that, but also the one line in the Phantom Menace, yes, my master.
Yeah. And I really liked him from Shaun of the Dead too.
Shaun of the Dead. I mean, yeah.
Shaun of the Dead, of course.
Pete.
Yeah, so he was there doing Look Around You, and then I was like, oh, will they do Garth Marenghi next? And I even talked to the publicist. Says, oh yes, we're looking to bring some of the shows over and really promote them. And I was like, oh, maybe Garth Marenghi. Says, oh, maybe.
What area of England is that accent?
New York, yeah. And then they stopped it. They only did those two shows. They went back to Doctor Who and the stuff that you'd expect them to do.
Yeah, which of course the big stuff. I did meet Serafinowicz when he was doing the Tick in the press room, but we never got him at our table. And I talked to him for like a second afterwards and took a quick little picture. It's a funny little face he makes. It's really funny. But yeah, it's it is a shame that they don't bring more of that stuff over, because it's like, I think there's a big audience over here for it, but maybe they just don't feel there is. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's just I mean, it's Garth Marenghi's Darkplace is the ultimate cult show.
Yeah.
I mean,
like
oh, go on. I'm sorry, John.
I was just gonna say, like, I just feel like just put it on Netflix or put it on something.
Yeah.
Where people can see it a little more readily than having to watch bootlegs on YouTube at the moment. I definitely feel like there is a huge place for this in the States right now,
Yeah.
Or like, I guess if Adult Swim had put it on a long time ago, they should do it again then. It should literally be like the thing they do every October for Halloween. Put this on Adult Swim, or something.
That's great. Yeah, sure.
Like it definitely should have a more widespread view than it does.
Yeah, I don't understand how rights work, but you would think that they could make some money out of this distribution. Like, finding a way to get, if they have like things like Toast to London on, it's like, come on, there got to be a way to. But maybe Netflix or Amazon aren't interested in it. Who knows?
It could also be that the show was like 14 years ago, 16 years ago, and it could also be that sometimes just the rights got a little wonky. Especially since this isn't really. I kind of got the feeling that. I watched some. There have been reunion interviews. There was an interview with Alice Lowe, which I thought was really great because she did get shortchanged, just like the woman always does in the interviews. Yeah. But I kind of got the feeling, this website has gone down, and that they did this when they were young. They were just out of college, and I kind of
it's one of the first things they did. Yeah,
it was one of the first things they did, and I think they all have. And it wasn't a success really. And AO8A is so successful and everything. And
you think they're embarrassed by it?
No, I don't think they're embarrassed. I think it's just like they've moved on.
Yeah, I could. Yeah. I briefly read an article by with Matthew Holness about his new movie, and it didn't seem like he spoke too highly of Garth Marenghi.
Really?
He kind of like wanted to just kind of be like, I don't want to be known for that
Yeah.
Well,
alone.
that's kind of his biggest thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
could also like just like, putting myself in his shoes, he probably did this Garth Marenghi thing all through school. They did 2 stage shows. It was really successful. And then all of a sudden you have to make this TV show and it needs to, and like they probably put so much energy into it. And like us, we appreciate it, but at the time, because of the time slot and things like that, like it didn't make money, it didn't get ratings. So like you could see where like that's really heartbreaking. So I wonder if it's just, at the time it's like, well, we did this thing and nobody likes it, even though I've been working on it for maybe a decade.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that can be traumatizing for someone. So maybe he's just not ready or will ever be ready
But
to revisit it.
yeah, and I do think, I mean, why his career didn't, take off or didn't, he's not as successful, could be by choice. I mean, maybe he wanted to do other things, maybe this wasn't his bag.
I am
And
very curious about Possum though, because I'd love to see like how he's evolved as an artist. So I am, and I do want to try and check that out.
yeah, I mean,
Well, my thing about like, well, people don't want to talk about past work, and as an actor or a former actor, a part of me gets it, but it irritates me too because
Hmm.
it's always new to somebody. Like that's why I got so irritated. I remember years ago when we wanted to interview somebody, a well-known cartoonist, about a work they're very famous for, and Joe approached them like, "Hey, we'd love to chat with you." Like, "Oh, I just want to talk about my new stuff." Or like,
mhm.
but people want to hear about it. They're nostalgic about that older work, and it's really fun. And it's like, "Oh, you're so over it, great," but we're not. The same thing with acting. It's like that's I understand that you don't want to be identified with one thing, but like there is still demand and joy for it. So maybe celebrate that. I've seen some actors who say that, I go, yeah, I'll talk about anything because that's my work, and if people love it, then I'll talk about it, which is the
Hmm.
right attitude I think to have.
But, I think it's a little bit of the William Shatner, um, uh, syndrome or whatever. I mean, I think for a while he, he went to cons and all that sort of stuff, but I think he wanted to move past Star Trek a little bit, and then of course he realized it was impossible, so he embraced it all
Yeah.
the way. But or maybe you could call it the Christopher Eccleston paradox, syndrome, where you get shoot to fame as Doctor Who, and he's my favorite Who Doctor. He's my
Who,
favorite.
Eccleston, really?
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yeah,
I liked him, but I didn't love him.
yeah. But I mean,
Tenet was my
not
boy.
I mean, I'm not a Whovian. I am not into Doctor Who. Just, sorry, it's out there. Kill me if you want. It's just how I feel. But I thought he was super excellent, and and then he got his actor stuff. I'm sorry, guys. Like I'm too good for Who, and yeah. Well, now you're playing some elf lord in Thor, the
Oh
worst Thor
yeah,
movie.
bad
So,
bad
but he's
move.
kind of made a little comeback actually. So, um, but actors and writers and directors, but a lot of times actors do kind of try to, like my current thing is the best thing I've ever done. That's all I really want to talk about. And yeah, it's hard sometimes to be like, I have to talk about this again, so I get it, but and that's fine. It exists. It's wonderful. It's perfect. And it's if we never get any more, sometimes, one of my things is I always want to be left wanting more.
Yeah,
That's a good
sure.
point. And I think that's like one
Yeah.
of the beautiful things about British television is like, at least watching it over here in the States, it's like usually like, yeah, I usually always want more. And it's like, well, I guess I'll just have to make up stories in my mind or something. Um,
Right, totally.
I lost my chain of thought what I was going to say, but continue on.
Oh,
You can say how pretty I look today. Thank you, John.
yeah, yeah.
Well, no, I do want to touch upon the we mentioned briefly the spinoff, the Man to Man with Dean Lerner. It's so good. So there's 6 episodes, like you said, and it's presented like a late night talk show, and they really amp up the character of Dean, where he's this playboy, sort of almost young Hugh Hefner type. They even show like old shows where he's younger and surrounded by all these women, and he's very misogynistic and sexist. But each episode has a different guest, and that guest is played every time by Matthew Holness.
Yeah.
So the very first episode is him as Garth. So he does, because Garth is promoting not just a new book, but that new giant volume. There's a new, maybe I think TV show or movie based on one of the books coming out too. Then he has a couple other characters. The next one is Steve Pissing, who's like a former like Formula 5 motor racing world champion. And then Glenn Nimrod. This one is great because it's like this. Glenn Nimrod is this. He's like this half Hawaiian actor, most famous for his role as Bot in the classic sci-fi series Galacticops. But he's sort of he plays this role, but even the way they do his makeup, they have him with like growing almost like he's grown breasts because of this like drugs he took for the character or whatever. And the makeup it's got a very Michael Jackson-esque quality to him, where he's like really out of touch with reality in a sense. There's Merriman Weir, who's this folk guitarist, and this is where like Matthew really plays the guitar. But he's just this weirdo, folk guitarist guy who plays his acoustic sets and just rambles on. There's Amir Shannon, who's a master of the psychic arts, who's sort of is almost kind of like a Richard Gere type, mixed with like that Uri Geller psychic guy, and he's just weird and awesome. And then there's Randolph Kerr, who plays like he played a character in one of the movies they did that was very popular called Bitch Killer, and where he just ran around and killed women, including his mom and all these other people. And he's like just like a downtrodden actor and all this stuff. But Holness is brilliant. He plays each character in every episode. It's so great to watch him transform. I guess maybe that's part of his thing. Like, I want to show I can do other things besides Garth, and each one's so different. And Ayati is genius, as of course he really amps up the whole misogyny and then the assholeness of Dean. And he's great. Like, you can tell there's definitely some improv going on there as well. Oh god, it's so funny.
I mean,
I highly recommend seeing that as well. So
yeah, I started to watch that. Whenever I started to watch all this was back when YouTube quality was not as good as it is now, to be honest. And also I couldn't just cast it to my TV.
Yeah,
like I did
before Google bought it, probably.
Yeah, and so it was like they had the episodes up. I don't know. I had to download them. The quality wasn't very good. It has a laugh track also, which is kind of part of the joke of the Dean Lerner, that it has this kind of canned laugh track. But it's pretty intense. I couldn't have binged it possibly, just because the joke for me wore a little bit thin on Dean Lerner. So that's what I'm saying. I'm glad.
Richard's so good though. It's like I don't agree. I think he was just like he just played it so well. The way he played off of the different characters that Matthew played was so good. Like, he was such a dick to some of them, and other ones, he has this weird reverence towards Garth though. It's like it's so good.
Do you guys have a favorite episode of the 6 of Garth Marenghi? Heidi, could you possibly pick one out?
Well, I think the best episodes are definitely the first one, Once Upon a Beginning, and the third one with the poop on the pipe,
Skipper the Child,
and then the last one with the video, where the doom, the mist comes. One episode is the Scotch mist, which I mean they're all brilliant, but I do think those three just have the moments that make me laugh so much. But then the second one, I'd forgotten. I had never seen all of the second one, I think. So the rewatch, I often postpone joy, which I shouldn't do in this world. But the doctors,
that was Stephen Merchant.
The doctors want their chicken.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think it might have been maybe the 4th or 5th episode, but the ape episode was my absolute favorite because it's got one of the best chase sequences I've ever seen. In the episode, people are starting to devolve into apes because they're drinking this green water, and like no one they're not noticing that it's green water. Yeah. And then you find out that this like alpha ape is peeing in the water supply.
Micturating.
Sorry, yeah. And then they get on bicycles and they just speed up, they speed up the film, and they're like going through the forest. But there's like motorcycle sounds, and it's just so awesome. And I'm like, part of this, watching it now and like how television is done now, like seeing what they did back then, there's a sense of like, oh, I can do that, and I can do it just as bad as they can do, and there's like there's that kind of joy that I find in it. I was like, well, I could just go to Astoria Park and ride my bicycle and do the same thing. There's something attainable about this show that was like so awesome to watch now. Like as I was watching it and constantly like just giggling, enjoying it, and being blown away. On YouTube, it's a whole playlist, so you can just find the playlist and just watch them straight through. I literally was texting it to all my friends, like, "Do you know about this show?" And everyone's
Nice.
like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." Like,
Oh man.
and then I would just list all the amazing things, like the editing is incredible, like, and they're like, "Well, I have to check it out." So I think that
Spread the word.
thanks to Heidi, the three of us
Yeah.
now are starting a new army of.
If there's nothing else that Comic Beat Insider does, it is bring joy to our fellow panelists here, and I'm so glad that you loved it and got I also the fight scenes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
God. And like when they throw, like there's one episode where she has the the PMS telekinetic powers, and she throws a fire extinguisher at him, and then you see Matthew Holness, like he's obviously holding it and like pretending to fight with it, but he's doing it in this hilarious way.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I wasn't asked, but my favorite episode was the second episode. He'll have Fury. That episode. Where
I addressed it to everybody.
Thank you. I know. I was jumping in. But yeah, I do love it because what she was saying about the fights, and like just like when Alice's character, all the psychic stuff happens, just her facial expressions are genius, and of course the Stephen Merchant appearance. But like Matthew, like turning the corner, and then they like, what was that? He's like, it's like a flying iron. He's like, and it's smart. It's like, it's so great. It's so great.
They go down into that is a great, you can't pick. And when they go down into the basement, they say, "Let's hug the wall."
Yeah. And then he's just fighting the three things. I'll take out the wisp first. And then like one of them goes, "Oh, I've been hit. I'm down." Like right away.
And one of the other great things about the show is there's a lot of slow-mo in it, and like just like terrible slow-mo running. And when you're watching the show, you're like, oh, well, that's what they used to do back then. And then in the interviews, you realize they're like, well, our episodes were 8 minutes short, so we had to put all this slow-mo in to make the episodes longer, so they could they could add on time. So that's the great thing too, because like as Darkplace, I loved this like horror medical drama that they were doing, but then that whole other level you sometimes forget about, and you're like, it's so smart that like they're like explaining why they're doing things, and it's so great, so great.
Well, like Heidi was saying about like the website, which is now down, but apparently they said like on the website they made it seem like these were real actors. They never mentioned the actual actors' names. They only mentioned like Todd Rivers or whoever, and press releases made it look like these realistic looking fake backstories for Garth and other characters, and again never mentioning their actual names. There was an article by Garth that appeared in the Daily Telegraph talking about his groundbreaking series, and supposedly more than a few people were fooled by it, by all this like fake fictional framing. So that's great. Another genius marketing.
But I do, with the great genius of Richard Ayoade and Matt Berry, Alice Lowe when she's walking as the chimp.
So my gosh.
So good. Her expressions are amazing. But I got it, I lost, Matthew Holness, like the way he runs, and it's like that slow-mo. And, the great quote, "As I rounded the corner, I felt muscular and compact like corned beef." and just the look on his face, just the he talks about his wife and his kids. It's like, I only have 4 daughters, but I've always wanted a son.
They're so good. Like to be one of the first things out of the gate out of school is pretty genius.
Well, they must have been an incredible. I mean, Jimmy, I think I sent you a link to this little video.
Oh, the footlights, yeah. I didn't watch the whole thing.
John Oliver and Richard
Ayoade and those guys,
Mitchell and Webb just hanging out, being funny together in school. I mean,
well, it's sort of like that old school, like Second City program. There's like that whole era that had like Tina Fey, that whole crew were all there at the same time, and Amy Poehler and Rachel Dratch, and so it's sort of a similar idea,
Yeah, it's
certain classes really move on to bigger and better things. So it's like, pretty amazing. But as we said, Ayade's done So many great things. Another thing he's done, he was in The Mandalorian. You guys remember? I recognize the voice right away. He was the voice of Zero, Q90, the
Yeah.
robot.
Yeah.
I was like, that's Richard Ayoade. I was so stoked. And
I've
I remember
never,
him promoting this book that I'd never read, but I'd love to check out maybe the audiobook of it. It's called Ayoade on Top, and it's all about Gwyneth Paltrow's view from the top film where she played an airline stewardess, and he just goes on to, I saw him on like Graham Norton talking about it years ago, where he's like, this is a this is a film, like it's like the genius work of film that everyone must watch. And he's like, jokingly praises it, or maybe genuinely believes that he really loves it, but it sounds brilliant. So he's just so fun.
I've never seen Night Watch. Have you?
No, that's like his only
Yeah.
big American film that he did. Remember, I was like, oh, cool, Richard's in a thing, and I never did see it. Yeah, it's like a neighborhood.
Oh, with Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I never saw that.
I would be interested to see. Well, I mean, I'm curious because I feel like, he's biracial, and just in England they have kind of a different attitude about that than we do here, and I think he plays some kind of, immigrant, and I'm sure in an American film it might have been a different kind of a, character. Might have not been, he might not have been used quite as well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Jimmy, is it true that this show is not needed to be recast?
It is. Yeah, normally, as you guys know, I like to do a modern day recasting to make it a little more ethnic. Not that Richard covers it, but it is basically 4 people in the cast. But it's just so perfect and brilliant that no, I don't see any recasting necessary for this one.
Yeah,
for sure. Go. It's so great. It's so perfect.
Speechless at all.
No. But if I did, I would. I'm just kidding. I would cast. I would have to keep it British too. It's very British, so yeah.
Yeah. It is so like it is one of the joys of the season, John. I think you're right. I think every Halloween there needs to be a Garth Marenghi watching. Terrors of the Scotch, when the Scotch come.
The Scotch mist.
The Scotch mist, or turning into apes, or any of the horrors that can, a hospital is there too. That's another thing I love about it. When they have that painting of the hospital, and it looks like an apartment building, with balconies and everything, and just in the middle of this dark moor. Oh, so good, so good.
Faux show.
All right, well, you guys, thank you. I'm so happy that I was able to bring this joy to your life.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I said, it's been when you first mentioned, I was like, oh man, I've been wanting to watch that for years now.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of this. I've been meaning to watch My Neighbor Totoro, and I never did.
Yeah.
And, that's really what Comic Beat Insiders become. It's forcing us to watch things we'll like.
Yeah, well, yeah, hopefully, exactly, yeah. And then, even like John said, it's like sharing it with friends. Like, I don't know how many people. Granted, it's a more popular film, but it's like, how many of my friends rolled out of the woodworks when I put up about Lost Boys? Like, oh my god, I need to rewatch that. I love that film. Like, people just going off, or even Chase and Amy got a ton of response from friends.
Yeah.
And
totally.
so people are just like or people that, I hadn't heard about that, or this and that. But like the more obscure things like this, I think is really fun to sort of share. And like, guys, seriously, check this out. Like, you need to check this out.
Well, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can be notified and get notifications of all of our wonderful conversations. Next week we'll be back with something not quite as obscure.
Beetlejuice. Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah, don't say it
2 more times.
I know, right? Don't say it. Don't say it.
Just watch it 80. Yeah, just watch it 80 more times.
Yeah. So it's that. Of course, that'll be really fun to talk about because we've all probably most hugely popular film, but it's October Halloween month, so we want to cover different types of Halloween things, not just scary.
Like I got the black cat.
Right, look at that.
Halloween. The cat broke my jack-o'-lantern.
Skull jar.
Oh no.
Cup.
Knocked it off, but it's okay. It's a broken jack-o'-lantern. That's what happens in this time.
Yeah.
So
right.
All right. So until next time, I'm Heidi. Are we good? I'm Heidi McDonald, editor-in-chief of The Beat at comicsbeat.com, and you can find me on all social media at Comixace, COMIXACE.
And I'm Jimmy Aquino of Comic News Insider at comicnewsinsider.com. And you can find me all over the social medias at Jimmy Aquino, JIMMYAQUINO.
And I am John Hosh. Very often you can hear me doing reviews for Jimmy and Comic News Insider. And
Yeah.
you can find me at JONHOCHE on the social media.
So until next time, next episode of Comic Beat Insider, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Knuckle supper.